Yo, recap Rangers, let's begin the story. The protagonist is the oldest son of the Count Perdium, known as Gislin Perdium. This man with a scar on his face is bewildered to see that he was defeated by Gislin Perdium, who is known to be an uncontrollable child and a man out of his mind, with a temperament that is off the charts. Then a man is speaking to him that he invested a lot of money to set the trap to lure this scarred guy in here. This man is wearing a knight's armor and is holding an axe taller than him. He inquires the scarred guy if he liked the present that he gave. The scarred guy is barking like a dog, where he is stunned to see that the protagonist had already knew of his plans, since the protagonist had set up a trap in advance. Then the MC revealed that it is not only the plan, but he also knew how many members there are, and as to where the scarred guy is receiving more reinforcements. Even after what the MC had spoken, the scarred guy still can't believe that he was bested by someone whom he deemed as a worthless person. Then by raising his voice he puts into question as to how Gislin managed to orchestrate this so perfectly. Then Gislin gave a boot to the scarred guy on his face and took his helmet out, where he challenged the scarred guy that no matter how many times he tries to invade Gislin's land, Gislin is going to win every single time, since he was a regressor. A year before this event, near the Perdium estate, Gislin's hand is shuddering where his mind is unable to process the situation, since just a moment ago, his head was severed by a warrior. A person just clashed his sword with Gislin and sent Gislin's sword flying into the air. Gislin's body is slashed by the swordsmanship of his opponent, where the red-haired guy is surprised that one of the continent's 7 strongest men, Gislin, is falling down so easily. This man is known as Aiden, who is also one of the continent's 7 strongest, who is referred as a noble knight. The red-haired then questioned if Gislin had any last words to speak, and Gislin then gritted his teeth and spoke.
It was a shame that I was unable to fulfill my revenge.
Gislin is known as the Mercenary King, who is one of the continent's 7 strongest people. The red-haired guy then informed Gislin that he never anticipated Gislin to become this strong, even when he left the family after his sister had murdered, to which a doubt had arisen in Gislin's mind as to how the red-haired guy knew of this information when he is from another kingdom. Then the red-haired guy divulged that he knew all about Gislin, since the red-haired guy did his best to track down Gislin. Furthermore, he grins at Gislin and notifies him that he was also a person who worked with Delphine household to bring Gislin's family into a fallen state. Gislin is stunned to hear those words, due to the fact that he never thought that there were other people who are backing the Delphine kingdom. Then the red-haired guy placed his sword closer to Gislin's head and stated that there is no point in him explaining any further, as Gislin is now going to die by his hands. Gislin then got burst into anger, where he said that he would never forgive the red-haired guy for what he did, and the red-haired guy replied that he wouldn't care about Gislin's forgiveness, in which he decapitated Gislin. Yet right after that incident, here he is, with his head still on his shoulders. He believes that this might be a hallucination, but he is in his younger self, so he concluded that he might have been taken as a captive and used as a lab rat for mages. Then someone from his backside calls him young master. At that point a soldier entered into the tent. A sword was placed near his throat, where Gislin warned him that if the soldier doesn't respond to his questions, he'll have to face Gislin's wrath. However, the soldier just brushed it off, that Gislin is still acting like a child, where Gislin is confounded at the soldier's calmness. Then the soldier just got freed himself and briefed in. Gislin is still too inexperienced to lead a squad, so that is why they rejected his proposal, where Gislin is throwing a tantrum about leading a squad to take down the orcs. Gislin is perplexed as to what the soldier is speaking. What's more surprising to him is that he was throwing a tantrum about it. The soldier then started packing up the bags, since they will be going back to the Perdium estate. Gislin's mind is blown away by that shock. At that time, he instantly grabbed the soldier's shoulder and questioned him that if he was talking about the fallen Perdium estate. Subsequently, he stood at the edge of a cliff and is witnessing the Perdium estate with his own eyes, where he himself couldn't solve the puzzle regarding the fallen Perdium estate being well and good. The soldier is whispering to the protagonist not to speak of his estate so lightly, given that his father might even disown Gislin for calling his county as a fallen one. Then Gislin is pulling out his cheek to check whether this is a dream or not, and to his surprise, there is pain caused from him pulling his cheek, so he believes that this isn't a dream. According to his younger face and his estate being unblemished, he can finalize that he was regressed back to his younger days. His younger self has used to be an arrogant one, in which his immaturity is so high that slowly his family members have started to ignore him, and he ran out of his house unable to withstand their criticism. Several years after that, he became a mercenary, where he fought countless battles and built up his skills from a scratch, and made a name for himself as one of the continent's strongest people. Later on, he returned to the Perdium estate to make up for his past mistakes, but unfortunately his house had already been crushed to dust when he returned. But somehow, he returned to the past where his estate is still intact, and the people who he holds as someone precious are all still alive. By narrowing his eyes, he knows deep down that it is too early to rejoice, provided that the soldier informed to Ghislain that all the warriors are on this mountain to raid the orc monsters. And Ghislain still have vague memories of him raiding this expedition, in which this is the place that most people have died, seeing that they have received false information about the orc monsters, on which there are supposed to be 3 orc monsters only, but there were more than 20 orcs at that time. And almost all of the squad members have ended up dying because of Ghislain's stubbornness of him wanting to command the squad. Then coming back to present, Ghislain ponders if the squad members will trust him if he took the command this time, since in everyone's mind, Ghislain is nothing but an useless child with no maturity or responsibility. Then Ghislain extended his hand and asked the commander to give him the rights of commanding the squad right now. Yet the commander simply refused his request, since the commander couldn't put the lives of all the soldiers present here on the line. He tells to Ghislain that this isn't some kind of game, where even if Ghislain is the young master, he still won't give up his authority so easily. Ghislain don't know what to do in this situation, so he attempts throwing a tantrum at the commander. Nonetheless, the commander got furious and warned Ghislain to take this raid seriously since people's lives are in danger.
It was at this fleeting moment, a big blast had taken place, where a watchtower had blown away, got shattered right on front of Ghislain. The commander sensed there was something behind him. Ghislain tightened his grip on the sword's hilt and hurled it forward with lightning speed. The blade tore through the air and struck the orc's forehead with brutal precision, driving deep and dropping the beast in an instant. The commander's eyes locked onto the scene, frozen in disbelief at the sheer force behind a single throw. A soldier then shouted at the commander that there was another orc behind him, where the commander's mind went blank as to why the orcs are targeting him only from the back. Ghislain didn't wait. He leapt from his position, grabbed the commander's shoulder, and threw him aside just as the orc's axe came crashing down toward him. Without hesitation, Ghislain raised his sword and met the attack. The MC started to move his sword with one clean motion, whereby slicing off its fingers to its hand, he took off its half arm like slicing some butter. Blood sprayed across the field. The soldiers watched in stunned silence, and the commander stood wide-eyed, unable to believe what he just witnessed. As the orc fell on the ground, he then swung his sword to shed the blood on them. Then he declared,
This time I will definitely create an history.
Then the orcs started to burst into action, where there are more than 20 orcs, which made the soldiers flabbergasted, because the orcs are way more than the intel they have received. The orcs then commenced the war, where they are killing and smashing the soldiers, and the commander raised his voice, where he ordered the soldiers to get into a defense formation without getting panic. The orcs are rampaging over the battlefield like there is no tomorrow. The protagonist jumped into the action like a predator that has been starved for so long. Ghislain then lunged at the orc monsters with a roar by raising his sword to his back. He instantly stabbed right through the orc's head. By taking out his sword, he challenged the orcs to come at himself if they want to know the taste of how spicy the hell feels like. Without taking any break, he charged at the next wave of orcs, in which he swiftly started to slice off the orc's vital points so that he can consume his stamina. The commander couldn't comprehend if he was dreaming or not, since what Ghislain is demonstrating is something that even the commander himself is incompetent of doing it, even though he has mana with him. He can see that Ghislain is getting exhausted, because his body is unable to keep up with his swordsmanship. Yet Ghislain is still dodging the orcs' attacks and counter-attacking them instantly by aiming at their weak spots. The commander felt the presence of a sword master hidden within Ghislain, where the commander is getting goosebumps just from watching Ghislain, that it didn't feel like he was witnessing a human. It felt like a beast wrapped in flesh had been unleashed, like someone who was born for war. Then Gislan began to provoke the orc monsters, to which all the orc monsters are now following him, and the soldiers are surprised if Gislan is running away. The commander is starting to take Gislan's action into consideration, where Gislan is the first to challenge the orcs. But if Gislan is running away from them, and that too in the direction of the end of the cliff, the commander realized what Gislan had planned, so he commanded the soldiers to form a shield formation, since Gislan is cooking something crazy big for the orcs.
As all of the orcs have launched themselves at the protagonist, Gislan is thinking that if the commander is an experienced one the battlefield, he would have already realized what Gislan had planned for the orcs. Although he thought of killing all the orcs by himself, his stamina is so poor, so taking down the orcs by himself is impossible. So that is why he placed all his hopes on the commander. And the orcs then heard something and looked to their back. During that moment, the commander and soldiers have raised their spears and shields at the orcs. And then Gislan smirked at the commander, and he sprang off from the cliff and told the soldiers to strike right now. Likewise, the commander commanded the troop to push the orcs off the cliff. At that moment when all soldiers gritted their teeth and moved forward with all their might, and they have successfully pushed the orcs off the cliff. And like that, most of them have died in the mid-air from that brutal stabbing, and some got crushed at the ground. The troop has got tried from doing that intense work, and the commander then looked for his young master, and Gislan is holding the sword which he thrusted to the cliff, and grinned at the commander that he did a great job. The commander then got a cheer on his face, and extended his hand at Gislan, and as Gislan tried to grab the commander's hand, his body became completely worn out, to which his grip on the sword loosened, and he fell from there, and the commander is shocked to see that. Then someone is calling Gislan as brother, and that his sister Elena. In that moment slowly his memories are starting to resurface one by one, about how she always wanted to stay with her brother, and the last moment of her, where she grabbed Gislan's hand and told him that they need to attend it together. At that time, Gislan woke up from his sleep, and he is now in his room, where he is happy to know that he fell on the orcs' corpses, and the length of the cliff is also a bit shorter. As he is raising from his position, he felt as if all his insides are changed their original locations, and he undergone through an immense pain. Then someone opened the door by calling Gislan as the master, where this maid is happy to see Gislan back to original self. Gislan recognized this maid as Belinda, and as the maid placed the pot on the table, she expressed that she was worried a lot for him, and that he should have left the orcs for the soldiers to handle themselves. Nevertheless, Gislan just embraced her without even listening to what she is saying, and she was stunned to see this huge change in Gislan, where he said that he is glad to see her again. The maid is Gislan's personal tutor. Ever since he was a kid, she was the only one to stay by his side, despite his idiotic antics. However, right after the Perdium family fell into ruins, the maid went missing and Gislan never had the chance to see her again, where he doesn't even know if she had survived that war. Then by sharpening his eyes, he is fixed to tell her the truth, where he started to explain that a huge catastrophe will befall on the Perdium, and that he died and came back to life. But the maid comprehended that Gislan is talking about how he survived even after he fell off the cliff, and then she began her nagging at him as to how he always takes rash decisions without considering the outcome of it. And Gislan understood that the maid won't believe him regressing back to time even if he proves it. Then the maid questioned him that what will he do if he got in serious injury from the raid, which makes him helpless to attend the festival. Gislan is surprised about this festival that the maid mentioned, and the maid replied that if Gislan had already forgotten the promise he made to his sister about the festival, where his sister has been waiting for a long time to go together with her brother this time. Then by taking hold of the photo frame, his mind wandered back to the incidents related to the festival, where this is one of the most traumatic moments in his life, which made him never to go near a festival at all. He inquired the maid that how much time is left before the festival starts, and the maid responded, there is only a week for that. And then the protagonist is assuming that he needs to at least regain some of his powers by that time, since that is the day that changed his life, where on that day, his sister is going to die. Then a person opened the door, where his sister is here to visit him. Just as how he did to the maid, he hugged his sister with brother's love, and the maid is shocked to see that Gislan is showing affection towards his sister. Even the sister is embarrassed to see Gislan acting like this, where he answered that he missed his sister a lot. Then she instantly struck him with a forceful push that knocked him off balance. And even he is speechless after encountering his sister's force. She stated to him, "She is here only because the maid called her here." But Ghislain hugging her won't settle the things that he said to her. And Ghislain asked about what she is talking. Then she notified him as to how spoke to her.
You are driving me mad because you are annoying. Moreover, your breath feels disgusting too.
And Ghislain, after learning about this, is surprised that he said those words. Then by turning his head to the left side, he apologized to her for what he did. Both the sister and the maid are dumbfounded that Ghislain apologized to his sister first, and her sister is questioning him, that if he got an injury in the head, which made him lose some sense. He yelled at them, that the orcs are no match for him, and before he could finish his words, he felt the immense pain from his body, and both the maid and his sister are enjoying seeing Ghislain like this. He is smiling brightly, where he is questioning himself, as to why he wasted so much time on useless things in his previous life, when there are cheerful people around him. Furthermore, in the upcoming festival, he rejected his sister's proposal to attend the festival together, by making up an excuse like the events from the Orc Raid event, where a lot of soldiers have died, made him upset. And that was the last time he saw his sister. Later on, his sister was found dead where her body was shredded into pieces along with her bodyguards. He is regretting that he should have been at least with her sister at that time. But if he were to be really with his sister at that time, with his low strength, he wouldn't even be able to defeat the opponents, and just die along with his sister without gaining any swordsmanship skills later. Coming back to the story, someone is knocking the door. These are the bodyguards of his sister, and they are here to let his sister know that she needs to oversee the work of the servants outside about the supplies. Ghislain is perplexed that as to why his sister needs to do something that a worker needs to do, and the maid briefs in, there is shortage of workers in Perdium estate, and since Ghislain is always lazy, he obviously wouldn't know about these things. As his sister is heading out, he realized that his past self never would have considered these things, where he didn't even know the fact there is a shortage of workers. Then he told his sister that he will be helping out as well. And his sister stood frozen, where she is now believing that Ghislain really must have injury in the head. In the festival workplace, all the servants are watching the drama that both the brother and sister making, where his sister is telling him to get out. Yet he is insisting that he will help, to which his sister replied, that Ghislain staying out of this work is the biggest help to her. According to the intel from his past life, his sister's body was found near the slums, which is far from the training grounds, so he deduced that someone must have called her to that place and assassinated her. So in order to prevent that from happening, he needs to know all the ins and outs of the Perdium estate first. Then someone entered into the scenario by calling Ghislain as his lord, and Ghislain immediately identified that person. This person is known as Old Man Fergus, whereby wiping his face drenched in sweat, he is happy to see Ghislain in good state. Then he holds Ghislain and is speaking about how worried he was when he found it out that Ghislain battled the orcs. Then by taking this as a chance, his sister appreciated the old man's timing and apprised him about Ghislain's health not being good, so to take him to his room right this instant. The old man accepted the sister's wish, and Ghislain had no choice but to figure out about the Perdium estate at a later time in the following week. Then Ghislain said to the old man to bring him to the abandoned training field in the castle now, and the old man puts into question as to what purpose Ghislain is asking for it, and he replied,
I need to get some training so that I can hunt some prey in the upcoming festival.
When the old man took him to the training hall, Ghislain is confounded to see this place, because even though he never set foot into the training ground, it is in a much better condition than he expected. Where he is pondering, this place is perfectly suitable for him to train. The old man then revealed that he always kept this place well maintained so that Ghislain could utilize these facilities. Moreover, he expresses his inner thoughts, that he always believed in Ghislain that he would one day start his great swordsmanship. Ghislain is taken aback by what the old man has disclosed, because that means that the old man has also kept doing this work in Ghislain's past life, by keep on believing in Ghislain, that he would one day start his training. Then Ghislain said that the old man needs to live a long life, because dying doesn't feel good at all. And the old man asks that Ghislain is talking as if he really experienced life and death, and Ghislain by smiling replied that the old man has a good eye. Then he uncovered that he had already died and came back to life, Yet the old man told him to stop with the nonsense. Ghislain then commanded the old man to head back to his work, as Ghislain is now going to start his training, and the old man obeyed Ghislain's command by bowing down his head. Ghislain is saddened to see this, because he always treated the people around him like his enemies. However, now he realized that he was short-sighted about it. In his previous life, the son of a lord from the nearby country got murdered in the festival that is in a week, and that is what started the conflict between the two estates, and soon it led to a war. As such, the downfall for the Perdium estate started from then onwards. Thus, his sister's death is the beginning to the Perdium's fallen state. So he made up his mind that he needs to set the things straight from here onwards. Then he sits down on the ground cross-legged to achieve a better physique first, whereby inhaling the air, he begins with the mana control. In this world, mana is a supernatural resource, which allows humans to transcend to a different heights. And according to his previous life knowledge, he was a prodigy in this, that his mind is so powerful that even on the battlefield, he was able to absorb the mana, where it is impossible for ordinary people to do that. It is just that he knows a technique, where he needs to connect the mana particles that are flowing in the surroundings, to bundle it up as if he's spinning a spool. For someone like him, who experienced tens of thousands of battles, creating a mana core is a piece of cake, where blue color energy is slowly starting to leak out of his body, and then the intensity increased even more as he is inhaling even more mana into his body. He got a magic book in his past life, which is half-burnt but contained unimaginable data about mana, where there is a specific method in that book. By using that method, Ghislain is able to create 5 mana cores in his body. And currently, as the energy surging at a rapid pace where there are 3 cores created in his body, he started to yell out loudly by that pain, where by creating multiple cores, he can form an explosive force with it. Then he instantly spatted out blood both from his nose and his mouth, since his body couldn't go beyond more than 3 cores. In his previous life, he was able to build 5 cores, but at the same time, using 5 cores requires an extremely amount of large mana in return, and this is the reason why I had lost to the red-haired guy right before his death, given that the red-haired guy charged at him with the Knight's Order, which consists more than 50 stronger people, and if it was a fair fight, Ghislain would have definitely won that fight. Even though the mana cores are a bit low compared to what he used to have, he is in a younger body, plus he had a lot of time to train now, so he has determined his path to kill the red-haired guy in this life, and to find out the true culprits behind the Delphine household who helped them to destroy the Perdium County. 1 week later, the day on the festival, the protagonist has fully geared up to face any kind of trouble, and is walking towards his sister, in which his sister is astonished that Ghislain came to the festival without making any excuses, and Ghislain replied that as a Perdium member, he should at least visit these type of festivals. Now his sister wants to know if it is true about Ghislain's commencement in training, and he responded that as warrior family, he needs to at least train to achieve the Lord's position. Nevertheless, she couldn't care about any of this, since watching her brother like this has really made her day. Ghislain realized something in the past week, where his actions have started to impact the people around him, where he believes the general flow of things would be the same, but it is difficult for him to calculate as to how every single action leads to his future. Then, after roaming all around the festival area with his sister is satisfied with the experience, yet she is bored because there is nothing new. Ghislain is staying beside his sister for a long time, yet nothing strange had happened. Not even the people don't look any suspicious to him. Then someone asks his sister if she wants to check out something fun, because according to his friend, there is an area where new events are being held. Then his sister quickly accepted their proposal and joined them on their way to see the new events, and at last, Ghislain has figured out who traitors were, and they are the bodyguards of his sister. Escort knights named Jamal and Philip are Elena's personal knights, where these are the most trusted knights for Elena, since they had protected her since she was a child. Besides, it was known that they were murdered while protecting Elena in Ghislain's past life. Then Jamal presented the area to Elena, which he is boasting about for a while, and when she looked at it with glowing eyes, there is nothing in there, just a normal empty street. And Elena, looking at the place, tells Jamal to stop playing tricks on her, because who would want to perform here in all places, and Jamal attempts to convince her by stating that the performers are still on their way, so it wouldn't take long enough for the performers to arrive. She is rebuking at Jamal to tell her truth, since this is just slums, and why would the performers leave the organized city, and starts continuing the show here. And Ghislain, on the other hand, is scanning the area. According to his mercenary knowledge, to ordinary people it may look like a casual street at first sight, but there are obstacles placed here and there, so it ceases the victim to escape from here. Then his sister had pulled Ghislain with great force by tugging him to her arm, where Jamal is nervously telling the sister to wait a bit longer since she at least had come this far, yet she just showed disapproval to his words. Then Ghislain queried her if she does some muscle workout, as her strength always made him wonder about it. Then she bumped into the other night, where Philip with a malicious look on his face warned her to wait little more, which made Elena anxious about Philip's behavior. She realized that there is something wrong with their behavior as they are acting strange, and Jamal, by scratching his head, imparted Elena, with a vicious look on his face by joining both of his hands, that a reasonable request had arrived, so they have obliged to it. As Elena is inquiring more about this request that Jamal is speaking off, a person then set his foot into the scenario, where one person with a blonde hair and two black-haired persons who are his underlings. This blonde-haired dude who looks like a cowboy is called Frank, and then Jamal started to report to him that he just did as they requested, so now their deal is over. The cowboy then looks at Ghislain and recognized him as Ghislain. Then he asked Jamal as to why he brought Ghislain when he didn't sought for him. Jamal answered to him that Ghislain had followed them foolishly without even realizing that this might be his graveyard. So Jamal is handing over Ghislain as a bonus to the cowboy. Ghislain then entered the chat, where he probed Jamal that if he had really sold them out like this, and if he had thought about the consequences of his actions. Jamal, with a smug expression, notified Ghislain that Ghislain needs to give priority to his own safety first, and they can just run away to nice faraway place with all the money they are going to get from this mission. Then Jamal divulged the reason behind his betrayal, where the barren lands of the Perdium had made him sick. Moreover, there are even barbarians near the Perdium County, so just like everyone else, he is also leaving the Perdium County to live the rest of his life peacefully, without doing anything.
In that heart-stopping movement, Jamal's body is slashed in half by Ghislain in one swift motion, where even Jamal himself is surprised about this, since Ghislain literally killed him in a flash. As all the audience are speechless at Ghislain's swordsmanship, Ghislain declared that even if a lot of people have left the Perdium County, none of them have ever betrayed them like Jamal and Philip did. With rage filled in his eyes, he looked at Philip and stated,
You think you can do anything as you seek? You are nothing but just a bodyguard.
Philip got tremors just from witnessing Jamal's death, so he took Elena as a hostage to threaten Ghislain. Before the fear could even settle, a sword came hurling through the air and drove straight into his forehead, dropping him on the spot without mercy.
Both the underlings of the cowboy are questioning the cowboy if that is really Ghislain or not. Based on the rumors they have heard, Ghislain never had any real combat experience. Yet the moves that Ghislain displayed had a chill ran down their spines. The cowboy is doubting himself, because the swordsmanship that Ghislain had used is infused with mana, and judging by Ghislain's appearance, he could guarantee that it is definitely Ghislain. As the sister is holding Ghislain tightly, she wanted to know what's happening right now, and Ghislain remained silent for a moment, and then he gave a karate chomp to her neck, and put her down on the ground after she's unconscious. As he turned his head at the cowboy then appreciated Ghislain for what he did, since they have planned to eliminate both the bodyguards, and Ghislain just did their work easier. Then he seeks to know if Ghislain had hidden his true skills this entire time, since he was completely different from the information he obtained. Ghislain, by taking out his sword from Philip's forehead, said to the cowboy not to interfere with his personal life. Then by looking at the assassinator's mana levels, he can judge that the underlings are nothing in front of him, but the cowboy excludes an energy which is not something to take lightly. So by excluding his blue color aura, he also formed some mana threads which are invisible. He questioned the cowboy about who made this request to him. Nonetheless, the cowboy replied that there is no need for Ghislain to know about it, due to the fact that he is going to be dead soon. Ghislain responded that he knew the cowboy wouldn't expose the truth sincerely, so Ghislain is planning to torture the cowboy until the truth comes out of his mouth. The underlings are asking the cowboy as to how they should kill Ghislain, and the cowboy ordered them not to kill Ghislain. Rather, they should capture him alive and to break every limb in his body, so that Ghislain should go mad as to why he is still alive. As the two underlings lunged at Ghislain like rabid dogs, he calmly pulled out the firecrackers he had prepared for this exact moment. He hurled one toward the first attacker. The firecracker split midair, but before the pieces hit the ground, Ghislain was already there. He appeared like a tempest, and in the blink of an eye, his blade drove straight through the underling's forehead. And as the other one had already swinged his sword to his back, and when he attacked Ghislain right that instant shifted the sword to his back and defended himself against that attack. Then he locked the underling's sword with his arm, and used his sword to take back the enemy's sword. Without any moment to rest, he sliced off the underling's head. Within that instant, Ghislain sensed something, where the cowboy sneak attacked Ghislain, yet Ghislain already used his second sword to block that strike, which made the cowboy taken surprise by that sharp senses of Ghislain. Ghislain then rose to his feet and lashed out his sword at the cowboy's neck, where a graze has formed on his neck, and his smoke pipe got sliced in half. Nevertheless, the cowboy whipped his blade at Ghislain with violent force, but Ghislain met it head-on, crossing both his swords to block the impact, as the sheer pressure of the strike roared through the air and ground beneath them. The cowboy let out a wicked grin, impressed by Ghislain's sharp and relentless swordplay. Had he been lacking even a shred of mana, his head would have been rolling on the ground. Ghislain's gaze sharpened, realizing the depth of power hidden behind the cowboy's calm exterior. That kind of dense mana is something that could only come from years of bloodshed.
Suddenly, the cowboy's sword began to surge with violent energy, arcs of raw force dancing around it as the air grew heavier with killing intent. This time, he wasn't just fighting. He was aiming to bring Ghislain down. Then by taking out his full potential, the cowboy notified Ghislain that no matter how high his swordsmanship is, if Ghislain won't be able to back it up with his mana, there is no way for Ghislain to take down the cowboy. In that case, Ghislain started to grin menacingly after hearing those words. The cowboy felt something is wrong, given that Ghislain is grinning in this situation. As a result, Ghislain deflected the sword of the cowboy, and then he thrusted both of the sword into the ground. He somersaulted in the fleeting moment to strike the cowboy right in his face where one of his glasses had broken, and he was thrown across the ground by that force. The cowboy, with a smirk on his face, is reminding Ghislain that without mana, there won't be any effect on the cowboy. And before, by the time he could even say another word, a blurt erupted from his mouth, where he coughed out blood from his mouth by that assault. He is terrified by that brute force. What's more unbelievable to him is that there is a mana force in that assault which is stronger than his own. As Ghislain is walking in the direction of the cowboy, he is now furious that opponents of this level have targeted on a small child like Elena in his past life. So he warned the cowboy by unleashing his third core.
Brace yourself to experience a torment of true agony and suffering.
The cowboy is stupefied about Ghislain's mana levels increasing tremendously. Ghislain charged at the cowboy like a raging beast. His eyes locked and his swords are like the fangs of a monster, tearing through the air with pure killing intent. In the blink of an eye, their blades collided, steel meeting steel in a violent storm of strikes, each blow landing with enough force to split the earth. Ghislain, in one graceful motion, delivered a powerful blow that even the sound barrier itself had shattered. The cowboy is shuddering by that dense energy, where his sword is starting to wear down too. In that split second, Ghislain pulled both of blades to behind his back, and the shift in his aura was undeniable. No longer a warrior, but a force of annihilation. The cowboy's instinct screamed, but it was too late. Ghislain unleashed his strike like a beast breaking free of chains. The cowboy's sword didn't just break, it exploded, reduced to shards before it ever touched him. In the very next breath, Ghislain's blades tore into his flesh with brutal precision, ripping through skin and bone like parchment in flame, as if the cowboy had never stood a chance to begin with, and the blood is spilling out of his body like the flowing of a river. Not giving the cowboy any time to breathe, Ghislain thrusted his sword into the cowboy's belly, where the cowboy spatted a mouthful of blood. Then, by using his wrist to keep the cowboy in check, he started to interrogate about the person behind this incident, as to who commissioned the cowboy to do this task.
Then the cowboy, without answering to Ghislain's question, took a small dagger out of his sleeve, where he is planning to at least kill Elena because he is sure that he is going to die by the hands of Ghislain. And when he was tossing the dagger towards her, some threads have stopped him from doing that, where Ghislain is using the mana threads that he prepared before starting the fight. Now Ghislain is asking the cowboy if he is ready to take a deal, where Ghislain will sheath his sword back into the scabbard if the cowboy were to reveal the identities of the people behind him. The cowboy is pondering as to when Ghislain had even created mana threads. Ghislain is not giving the cowboy any time to think by driving the sword into the cowboy's belly. He advised the cowboy to reveal before Ghislain loses any more patience, since the cowboy could patch himself up with his healing mastery. But if Ghislain were to destroy his mana core, the cowboy couldn't undo it. As the cowboy is startled at Ghislain forewarned, Ghislain began to flow his mana into the sword, and is transferring that mana to destroy the cowboy's mana core. The cowboy started to realize that his mana has slowly started to shatter. Then he shouted at Ghislain that if he is mad, because if the cowboy's mana core got destroyed, this whole place will be blown away by that impact. And Ghislain just briefed in the cowboy that only the unskilled people will fail to protect the surroundings, and Ghislain can easily manage it. The cowboy could perceive one thing specifically, that Ghislain is not bluffing, where the cowboy could see the king of hell in Ghislain's eyes waiting for the cowboy to meet in hell. He was horrified of this treatment, so he immediately confessed the one behind him, where a person called Desmond, who is a neighboring count, has commissioned the cowboy to do this, so that the count could use this as a pretext to wage a war against the Perdium County and the Degard County. Now that Ghislain knew who it was, even in his past life, he is aware of how underground work like this is left for the families that are allied with the ducal household. He is cursing the Duke Delphine as to how he orchestrated all these scenes without even letting his name involved. As Ghislain asked the cowboy that if it was only because of this reason the cowboy wanted to kill Elena, the cowboy accepted it. On the spot, Ghislain thrusted his sword completely into the cowboy, where the cowboy, by coughing out blood, brought up the deal that Ghislain made to him. And Ghislain, by sneering, told the cowboy that the cowboy must have taken a lot of lives in his time, so why was the cowboy getting frightened when it is his turn? Then the cowboy began to laugh, catching Ghislain off guard. Then by a minor headbutting to Ghislain, the cowboy unveiled what he did, where the cowboy had already killed the one he needs to kill from the Degard family, so no matter what, a war is inevitable. Then by laying his palm on the cowboy's face and lunged him into the back, Ghislain exposed his secret, that he has already died and got regressed back, so he will for sure save his county this time. In that manner, the cowboy's mana core got destroyed, and a cracker was launched into the sky, and it got burst in the sky beautifully. As Ghislain is panting out since he was worn out, he looked at his sister, where she is sleeping peacefully. Ghislain left the sword in his hand, and exhaled shortly. And since his body has used too much mana from the third core, the backlash caused him to cough out some blood. As he was wiping the blood on his face, he is surprised to see that his body is acting like this only because of unleashing 3 cores. Yet he didn't fall out like that, where he broke the door to a house, and there are 2 dead-bodied inside it. According to his knowledge, there was another body that was founded near Elena's body, and according to what the cowboy said earlier, the cowboy had already killed the son of Degard, where even the knight is also murdered. The moment this piece of information is revealed to the outside world, a war will commence. So Ghislain is taking out the other firecracker that he had, so he can erase the evidence. Likewise, a huge fire stormed through the slums, and Ghislain carried Elena on his back and is on his way to his home. A person who is wearing a black-colored cloak is watching this entire scenario. Then he instantly vanished into thin air. The cloaked person then reported that the mission was a failure to some higher-ups, where there is conference happening here, and all the higher-ups are scolding the cloaked person for not even accomplishing such a simple mission, even though he had the cowboy and his underlings who are the best. The higher-ups are asking the cloaked person if they have let their guard down just because it was an easy mission, and the cloaked person then responded that it wasn't because letting their guard down, that it was because of Ghislain Perdium, the firstborn of the Perdium County. All the higher-ups are perplexed at his response, since based on the data they had on Ghislain, Ghislain is basically a useless child of the North. Then one of the higher-up is warning the cloaked person that to at least use some powerful figure as an excuse if he wants to make them believe. Then the cloaked person described that Ghislain is not as usual, where he is completely different from the rumors they heard. He explained everything he observed at the slums, that Ghislain literally felt like a demon to him. In that case, the cloaked person attempts to convince the higher-ups by mentioning that they have killed the son of Degard, so they can start the territorial war as they have blueprint. Also, he requests them to give him one more chance. And with that, the higher-ups are all have started their rebuking once again as to how incompetent the cloaked person, that he is a reckless person for tasks like this, where they should first eliminate the cloaked person to make things go in a smooth flow. The cloaked person is shocked to see this, that the tables have completely flipped against him, where there is no room for him to even speak, that this entire conference hall becomes something like a fish market. Then a person who is sitting at the top told everyone to quiet down, where the room is now filled with silence. Then this person inquired as to how the cloaked person will resolve this problem if were to given a chance, and the cloaked person answered that he will first get rid of Ghislain, where he will make a duel to happen naturally. Because there is someone in his mind, as all the higher-ups are pondering who the cloaked person is referring to, the cloaked person then let everyone know, a person called Cain Logius, who is famous for strength-based swordsmanship, and despite his young age, he is the epitome of strength. And he confidently promised to them that there is no one that could match Cain in terms of strength in the north, and what's more guaranteed is that Cain is Ghislain's cousin, so there will be no problems even if something were to happen to Ghislain in the duel. The higher-ups are all convinced a bit, and the top higher-up forewarned the cloaked person that if he were to fail again, there will be no more next time for him. In the Perdium's training hall, the old man is here to call Ghislain to have lunch, and then a mana thread has hurled at the old man, where this mana thread then caught the sword's hilt that is beside the old man, which took the old man in surprise. Like that, Ghislain pulled the sword by using the mana thread, in which he is swinging the sword front and back. Then he saw the old man at the entrance and greeted him, where the old man is apologizing for disturbing Ghislain's training. And then he questions Ghislain as to how Ghislain did something like that. Ghislain is asking if the old man wants to know about the mana thread. Ghislain apprised the old man about the mana thread, that one needs have the concentration to operate the mana as a string. In his past life, Ghislain always used the mana thread for minor purposes, but now he is not even able to use unless one of his mana cores erupt. Then by looking at his mana thread, he realized that if he were to reduce the mana that it takes to utilize one single thread, he had no problem with it. The old man had never seen anything like this, although he had worked as a knight for a long time where he dealt with many mana experts. Then the old man is imagining, where he is happy to see Ghislain achieving some great feats even though it had been a few days since the beginning of his training. A few days have passed after the incident, and the rest of the festival was cancelled, because the news blown away everyone's mind when they heard that a knight tried to sell the count's daughter. Elena is a bit irritated, providing that no one had believed her words when she told that Ghislain is the one who protected her from that crime. She is yelling at Ghislain to at least tell them himself, and he replied that even if he were to go there himself and tells everyone that he was the one who protected her, no one would even hear his words to begin with. The maid is frustrated that she is gritting her teeth because of how the knights have tried to do something so cruel to Elena. Ghislain is happy to see this, as he had somehow saved Elena and altered the future, yet he is still on his guard, that the Delphine house will target the Perdium no matter what. Now he is planning to form a legion, given that he alone won't be enough to deal with the Delphine house, as there might be some variables might even occur since he began altering the future. Then a housemaid is here to serve the lunch, and when she opened the cloche, there is only a strange food inside it. Then Ghislain asked as to why he is getting the dessert at the beginning, and the maid replied, the dish that is served is not dessert, because the Perdium County couldn't afford something like a dessert. At that moment, someone shouted so loudly that even Ghislain could hear it from inside, where that person needs a compensation for what had happened. This person is a merchant, and his problem is, the festival has been cancelled and the merchants are facing a huge loss, so the Perdium County should pay for their losses. The people are even threatening the guards, that the people inside the castle must be flooding with money. And Ghislain is shocked to hear their words, because he doesn't even have food to eat inside the castle. The maid then explained the situation. All the merchants have made some nice profits in last year, and in the same way they anticipated to make some money, but the festival got cancelled only after a day. Ghislain never knew that the financial crisis is this high in the Perdium County, and he could comprehend that the merchants would go wild if they aren't controlled. So he commanded the old man to send a few soldiers to the main gate to control the merchants, and the old man apologized to that, as they don't have any soldiers. Because there are only a few soldiers in the county to begin with, and that few soldiers have all dispatched to the orc raid. To the north side of the Perdium, there is a fortress of barbarians, so the Perdium is always at war with them. Furthermore, to the east side, there is forest filled with monsters, and they never knew when a monster would come out of it. So the Perdium is short on both money and soldiers. Then by taking the maid to his side, Ghislain whispered to her that the maid is the one who manages the allowance of Ghislain, so he recommends the maid to use that allowance now. The maid then revealed that there is no money at all. Then Ghislain asked for the reason behind that, and she replied that because of Ghislain spending the money like a water, the lord of the county, Ghislain's father, has suspended his allowance. He was bewildered to hear that he, who is the son of a county, had not even a single coin under his disposal. By extending his hand, he wanted to borrow some money from the maid, and she disclosed that she too doesn't have any money. By sitting on the window's side, he is cursing the castle. There are no soldiers, no money, not even the people are being friendly with them. Even if Ghislain had the knowledge about the future, he couldn't do anything without a capital, and he strategizes to secure some funds. As he was wondering what does he need to do in order to make some money, he started considering to sell the items that are inside the castle which are worth some money, yet not even a single item is popping up in his mind. Then someone is running at a high speed, and then this soldier opened the door by dashing, which made Ghislain intrigued as to what had happened. Then the soldier, after taking a breath, informed that the young Master Cain is looking for him. The commander is beaten to a pulp by someone, where he got another smack to his face, and then the person launched one more punch, where the commander felt an immense pain from that. And the effect of that punch made a huge dent on his armor, and he at last fell on the ground, and at the same time, Ghislain entered into the room. The commander, seeing Ghislain, made him a bit happy, and due to the pain, tears are flowing around his eyes, and Ghislain, watching this cruelty, made his blood boil to the maximum level. Then as he looked straight ahead of him, a person then greeted Ghislain as cousin, where this person with the huge body is the person Cain, that the cloaked person's last hope. Ghislain now recollected this face from his past memories, where this person is the successor of the Loges family, that is allied with the Perdium family, named Cain Loges. Back in his past, Cain was his only friend, and enemy at the same time too. Then Ghislain inquired the soldier as to what happened here, and the soldier with a disheartening face started to break down, that they came here to investigate a commotion that is caused by Cain in the pub. Then Cain recognized the both of them, and wanted to know if the rumors about Ghislain's are true, so the commander elaborated all the information he knew about Ghislain, as to how greatly Ghislain defeated the orcs. Cain, by having the mug of liquor, grabbed the commander's face tightly, and stated that the commander is just lying to him about Ghislain's rumors, so he started to beat the commander for that reason. Cain is expressing to Ghislain that if the commander hadn't told those lies about Ghislain, he wouldn't have beat him like that. Then by getting closer to Ghislain, Ghislain knew that Cain had always treated Ghislain like a subordinate. Then Ghislain's mind wandered back to the circumstances as to how Cain used to beat him, to which no one was able to stop Cain, and anyone who dared to speak against Cain, they would only receive suffering from Cain. That is when people have started to show their support to Cain, about his overflowing confidence, and his charismatic demeanor that is befitting of a successor. Whereas people have initiated to look down on Ghislain, for his lack of strength to defend against Cain. But he sighs by realizing that this time things won't be the same. Cain, by looking at Ghislain's calm attitude, is stunned, due to the fact that Ghislain normally would have charged at Cain for provocations like this. A few moments ago, in the Loges manor, the cloaked person has given an account of how Cain needs to kill Ghislain by using a cause like a duel, and if he were to succeed in this, the master of the cloaked person will place his support at the Loges family. Cain then puts into question that taking down someone like Ghislain is not a big deal to him, but Ghislain is the heir of the Perdium, who is the successor of a noble house as well, so the consequences won't be small. Then the cloaked person relives Cain, that all he needs to do is a simple task, where Cain needs to provoke Ghislain, then to challenge him to a duel, and later onwards, the cloaked person will disguise himself as guard knight to advise him behind the scenes, so Cain doesn't need to worry about anything. Then Cain agrees to that idea, and the cloaked person states that opportunities like this won't come every day. According to the rumors that Cain heard about Ghislain's change in attitude and strength, he believes that the people who are associated with the cloaked person are now trying to eliminate Ghislain, before he could become a dangerous person that they couldn't handle. Then Cain smirks at Ghislain by comprehending what he needs to do. He tells Ghislain to not to waste any more time and to get him what he had prepared. As Ghislain is confounded about what Cain is speaking about, Cain then stated that as the festival got cancelled, they have to lighten up some mood in the audience and to celebrate. Then Ghislain is unbothered with Cain's demeanor, took some time to remember what Cain is speaking about. Then a memory evoked in his mind that Cain always used to order Ghislain to bring him alcohol and women, and that too with Ghislain's own money. He just brushes it off, that things like that won't happen from now on, and in his past life he had no choice but to obey Jane's orders, since he doesn't like to get beaten up by him. During that moment, something flashed in Ghislain's mind about what the maid said to him, as to how the financial status of the Perdium is very low. Like that, a nice idea had popped up in his mind, where he realized that his golden goose, which could lay some golden eggs, is right ahead of him, where Ghislain is planning to squeeze out the money from Cain completely. At that time, Cain shouted at Ghislain to hurry up if he understood what Cain meant by, because his patience is too low. Ghislain accepted what Cain had commanded him, but there is something that is bothering Ghislain, that Cain needs to first pay him the money that Cain owes to Ghislain. The cloaked person sensed something is wrong with Ghislain, and Cain, by fixing his gaze at Ghislain, questioned, why does he owe anything to Ghislain? Ghislain then raised his hand and described that all this time Ghislain had spent a lot of money for alcohol and women. So if he were to add some interest to that amount, he revealed that the total amount Cain needs to pay is 1,000 gold coins. And Cain is dumbfounded to hear that, because for all that things, it would not even cost him 100 gold. Then Cain continues speaking by raising one of his eyebrows, that he won't be paying even if it is 100 gold coins to Ghislain, because he thought that Ghislain had spent all that money because of their nice, cute, and chubby friendship. Ghislain then said that he knew Cain is only treating him as a lackey, and never as a friend, which made Cain startle, and Ghislain then forewarned to Cain to pay him the money back quickly, or else he'll have to beat the pulp out of him. The room then started to fill with some conversations, where the soldier is shocked to death to see Ghislain acting so highly by belittling Cain. Then Cain stepped forward, where he is surprised to see Ghislain like this. He believes that just because he is speaking nicely with Ghislain doesn't mean Ghislain could do as he wishes. Then he bows down a bit to notify Ghislain that Ghislain won't be able to fool Cain with his rumors of defeating a group of orcs. Then by clenching his fist, Cain is trying to teach a lesson to Ghislain, so that Ghislain from onwards would know his place. As he was about to land a hit on Ghislain, Ghislain evaded it simply by just keeping his hands in his pockets, which made both Cain and the audience speechless. Then Cain swinged his arm again at Ghislain, and this time Ghislain ducked the attack and tightened his fist, where he gave one hell of a punch to Cain's chest, where Cain's eyes have enlarged by that momentum. And when Ghislain punched him again, this time Cain blocked that strike, yet he is screaming in pain. Where Ghislain is confused as to why Cain is pretending like this, when Cain had blocked that punch. Then the cloaked person looked out for Cain, and is checking if Cain is alright. And Ghislain is telling Cain to get up, since he saw Cain blocking that punch, to which the cloaked person is yelling at Ghislain that he shouldn't have gone this far. All the people in the pub are now communicating about this fight, and are questioning each other if anyone had saw that strike. Now Ghislain got a vague idea as to what Cain and the cloaked person are planning. Then he smiled inwardly, and is planning to show what he is capable of. Cain, looking at the cloaked person by smiling, has whispered to him in a low voice that how his acting skills are. Then the cloaked person responded with a satisfied expression that he can give an Oscar award to Cain in acting skills. And the reason why they did this is, now Cain has a reason to duel against Ghislain, since Ghislain is one who started the fight, and the people in the pub will spread rumors about it. Then Cain, by keeping his hand inside his blazer, is imagining that he will now have the support of a powerful army if he were to kill Ghislain here. Then by curling his lips, he took out a glove to challenge Ghislain to a duel. Then with this match, he believes that he can cut off their alliance with Perdium. As he was about to throw the glove at Ghislain to challenge him to a duel, by mentioning that Ghislain had struck him first, a glove had already slapped on his face, where Ghislain had challenged Cain to a duel, and as Cain's eyes are burning with rage, Ghislain declared that Cain had insulted him, the successor of the Perdium family, in front of his people. Moreover, Cain has tarnished their nobility by assaulting of their knights. So with all these causes, Ghislain is looking forward to having a duel with Cain. Cain was staggered to see Ghislain's attitude. Then by grinning, he said to Ghislain that Cain had already knew Ghislain as a fool, but he never thought that Ghislain would even dig up his own grave like this. Then by taking hold of the sword's hilt, he accepted to challenge Ghislain to a duel by aiming his sword at Ghislain. Ghislain then commanded the soldier beside him, in which the soldier needs to bring all the merchants who were protesting to the arena. Then with sneer on his face, he disclosed to the soldier to inform the merchants that they will make a lot of money today. With the festival being cancelled due to Elena's incident, where the mood of the villagers is completely down, there are still some tourists who hadn't left the territory yet, since they are eager to spend their money somewhere in the festival, yet there isn't anything that had caught their eye. So that is why our protagonist had planned a brilliant strategy to give entertainment for everyone, where he prepared a duel between the both of them. Cain versus Ghislain, the successors of each families, and the audience are screaming in joy for being able to witness this match after roaming all over the territory. The merchants have all started their businesses back in action, where the entire place is filled with crowd, and a merchant then started to place bets on this match. Then everyone had placed a huge amount of bets on Cain. Everyone is believing that Cain will definitely win against someone like Ghislain. Then by thrusting his sword onto the ground, where the sword is as long as his own height, Cain warned Ghislain that if Ghislain were to surrender in the middle of the match, his sword wouldn't stop there. Then Ghislain understood the reason behind this duel, that they are planning to eliminate him here. As Ghislain is about to start the match, someone shouted to halt the match, where the cloaked person is speaking that the betting cannot be processed in this way, as everyone is baffled about what the cloaked person is speaking about. The betting merchant revealed that no one had placed their bets on Ghislain, so how can they even move further with this? The audience are starting to chit-chat, that why would they place their bets if they knew they are going to lose, and some people are shouting that someone must place a hopeless bet on Ghislain. Cain is chuckling at Ghislain's fandom, that there would be no one who would want to lose their money. So the betting merchant is planning to change the betting stakes, that the bets will be about how many strikes could Ghislain last, and in that moment, someone is walking towards the betting table. A person then placed a sack of gold coins on Ghislain, where it is the commander. Ghislain then smirked, looking that there are indeed people who believe in him, and then another huge sack had landed on top of that sack. This time his sister is the one who bet the gold coins on Ghislain. Both the commander and Ghislain are shocked to see this, where even the audience are stunned about it. Elena is asking if this amount is enough to proceed with the previous stakes, and the betting merchant agreed that this will be more than enough. Then at last the match had begun, and Ghislain just stated that, since he is older than Cain, it would be a little strange for Ghislain to make the first move. So Ghislain is giving the privilege to Cain of making the first move, since Cain is younger than Ghislain. Then by drawing his sword out of the scabbard, he whipped the sword in the air and challenged Cain to come quickly. Then Cain by bending to the ground. As soon as someone shouted to start the match, Cain jumped into the air with his huge body by arching his sword to his back. He clashed the sword with his mighty force, and Ghislain defended against it without a problem. In that manner, Cain arched his sword upward, where the force made Ghislain to hurl back, and within that instant Cain, by holding the blade of the sword, pushed the sword's hilt towards Ghislain, and Ghislain evaded it an arm's breadth. Then Cain used another following move, and Ghislain dodged it again. The audience are still rooting for Cain, that once Cain manages to land even a single blow, Ghislain would be done for. The maid is getting nervous that Ghislain would definitely lose. Moreover, they placed all their allowance that Ghislain would win. The cloaked person is imagining that no matter how great a person is good at swordsmanship, Cain's strength always leads the way, because a victim always strives to escape from Cain, as they can't confront Cain in terms of strength, and at last the victim will be exhausted, and Cain will seize that opportunity to take down the victim. Cain has always won using that trick, so the cloaked hopes for the same thing to happen, yet he don't know that Cain is challenging the protagonist of the story who had died and regressed. Cain acknowledges that Ghislain had indeed changed a bit compared to before. Then by rotating his sword, he grabbed the blade again, and he instantly smashed Ghislain using that. Nonetheless, Ghislain had already shifted his sword to his left shoulder where the attack is coming from, and has protected his body. But Cain didn't stop it at there, where he used the sword's crossguard to hurl Ghislain in that short moment. All the members have realized that the match is over since one couldn't do anything in the midair.
It was at this moment Ghislaine used his mana to concentrate on his foot, and then he propelled himself like a ferocious beast. Ghislaine blitzed forward like a phantom storm, his blade howling as it carved across Kane's belly. It wasn't just a strike, it was a curse of devastation too fast to grasp. Kane froze, unaware he'd just been touched by death itself. The cloaked person is petrified that Ghislaine managed to do something like that in midair. Besides, if Ghislaine's sword had intended, Kane would have been done for. As Ghislaine sighs down, he stated to Kane that Kane must be thinking that the opponent would be scared if he showed a little bit of his power while using an ignorant swordsmanship and believing that he was the strongest. By pointing his sword at Kane, Ghislaine spoke to him.
Allow me to open your eyes by showing you what true swordsmanship is.
Kane clenched his teeth in anger. The moment Kane tried to kill Ghislaine by cutting him in half, Ghislaine rotated himself to intercept the attack with his leg. Then he somersaulted in the midair where he already had slashed off Kane's arm. Then, within that tense moment, he slashed off 3 parts. Kane, by getting enraged that he was getting humiliated like this, he lunged his sword at Ghislaine, where Ghislaine had already leaped into the air. Then, by pounding the sword with dominance, he swinged his sword at Kane's neck, and blood started to spray from all the slashes that Ghislaine made on Kane, where all the people who had bet their money on Kane are overwhelmed by that graceful swordsmanship. All the people who witnessed it never knew that swordsmanship would be this astonishing.
Even the maid got a shock from the battle, and the commander is filled with joy, yet he is not showing it on his face. Only now had Kane realized that if Ghislaine had really tried to do his best, Ghislaine can definitely made the striker deeper into his body. Nevertheless, Kane is still furious that someone like Ghislaine had managed to something like this to him.
As Ghislaine is looking the rage in Kane's eyes, he comprehended that this level of disrespect won't be enough for Kane, so then he simply tossed the sword in his hand to a side. That Ghislaine is getting bored to play with Kane like this, because Kane's swordsmanship is just like nothing but a scarp. So he declared,
I will be fighting barehanded from now on.
And then, by rolling his sleeves up, he said,
I need to use this opportunity to at least educate you with my bare knuckles.
Kane is questioning Ghislaine as to what will Ghislaine educate him, and Ghislaine replied that he deemed Kane as no match for him in swordsmanship. So he challenges Kane in a barehanded fight, which Kane is mostly proficient in. Not only that, Ghislaine is betting 2,000 gold additionally to the amount that they have initially set. The cloaked person is completely drenched in sweat. Even then, he is still smiling by believing that fortune is still on his side. Given that Kane is master in strength, he considers that Ghislaine will have no choice but a defeat if it was a barehanded fight. Then the betting merchant started new bets, on which that this will be a barehanded fight between Kane and Ghislaine. The audience have slowly began to place their bets, where people are still betting on Kane, because the bet is about strength this time. However, there are some people who had a change in mind and decided to place their bets on Ghislaine. Then Kane started to laugh, in which he slowly taking out his blazer, then by gripping his sword even more tightly, he shrugged off the blazer and is using his sword to take down Ghislaine, cause he hadn't accepted to fight barehandedly. The maid is shouting at Ghislaine to pick up his weapon, because gorillas like Kane won't have brains and just do as they wishes.
And as Kane has swung his sword at Ghislaine, Ghislaine realized that this is why he needs to educate Kane. And then he slowly began to vanish into thin air. Kane slammed his sword into the ground with savage force. The earth is cracking beneath the weight of his strike. Ghislaine had already vanished from sight. In a flash, he drove a bone-crushing blow into his thigh. The hit landed like a cannon, and Kane's leg buckled under the force. Before he could even yell in pain, Ghislaine's left fist shot it upward, smashing into Kane's jaw with a brutal assault. To that bone-shattering hit, Kane fell to one of his knee. His instincts are telling him one thing only, that a powerful dominator is standing right ahead of him, not to mess with him. Everyone started to cheer for Ghislaine, because now they don't care about their money. It's just that they want pure entertainment like this. Ghislaine told Kane to get up, since he hadn't even started yet, where this is just the trailer and the main picture will be even more intense. Kane couldn't accept this inferiority which he is receiving from Ghislaine, so he moved forward towards Ghislaine, and as he is swinging the sword in every single way that he knows, yet Ghislaine is dodging them effortlessly. Ghislaine caught Kane's forearm, and in that moment, his grip so monstrous and unyielding, with a vicious twist, the joint shattered, and then Ghislaine drove his knee into Kane's stomach with the force of an obliterating predator. What followed was a storm of destruction. Ghislaine roared forward, unleashing a relentless onslaught, strike after strike, each blow more savage than the last. His movements each carry the wrath of a war god. Kane's body got demolished under the brutality, as Ghislaine tore into him like a revenant, hungry for vengeance. Kane is regretting that as to why had he born into this world, and his face had swollen beyond recognition.
Then Ghislaine grabbed Kane's hair, where Ghislaine is pitying Kane's father, because Count Loges, who is Kane's father, had helped Perdium a lot of times when Perdium was on the verge of demise just because they are friends. Yet he believes that Kane had other motives unlike Kane's father. Those words snapped a memory of Kane. A few years ago, Kane is frustrated that his father is sending more support to the Perdium again. That even if his father is a friend of Count Perdium, his father shouldn't ignore the hardships that the Loges family is currently having. And Kane assumes that Perdium is withering away, so it is like pouring water into a cracked bucket. Then he just told his father not to go this time, which made his father flinched by those words. And his father still insisted that he is a friend of Count Perdium, so he should just go to Perdium and help his friend now. In the current situation, as Ghislaine is giving out the final blow to take down Kane, Kane closed his eyes tight shut by getting frightened, and Ghislaine said to him that this much should have educated Kane. Then by stretching his hand, he told Kane to get up now that the fight is over. Watching Ghislaine like this, Kane discerned Ghislaine as a friend for the first time. Then by bowing down his head, he accepted his defeat in front of everyone. All the audience are paused for a second, and then they got riled up and cheered for Ghislaine as the winner of the duel. The cloaked person then got up onto the stage and is yelling at Kane, where he is yapping like a mud in Kane's ear, that Kane shouldn't accept his defeat like this, since a powerful master will back up the Loges family if Kane manages to kill Ghislaine here. Kane didn't show any interest in the cloaked person's words, and he is just leaving the stage since the match is over. The cloaked person is getting tensing up, since he will be done for by the higher-ups if Ghislaine stays alive after this duel. Then from the cloaked person's backside, Ghislaine reminded the cloaked person to fulfill what he needs to do. As he was wondering about what Ghislaine is speaking about, Ghislaine announced to everyone that the cloaked person will now use his own pocket to satiate until everyone is full. And the audience are so happy to hear that, where they are planning to eat meat and to drink alcohol until they are going to die today. And some of the audience are shouting that today they will make the cloaked person into a beggar by eating everything that they could find. The cloaked person is yelling at Ghislaine to withdraw his statement, since he never agreed to any of this. Ghislaine then simply placed his hand on the cloaked person's shoulder and told him that this is just the price for losing the duel, and to make it clear, the amount won't be deducted from the bet that he placed. By pressing the shoulder of the cloaked person, Ghislaine stated him not to forget the 3,000 gold that they need to hand over, since Ghislaine won the duel as he said. Moreover, he warned him,
If you are even having the thought of running away, you will have to witness what the depths of hell looks like.
In that manner, Ghislaine took his leave from the stage like a main character by keeping his hand inside his pocket. The next day in his room, a big chest had just fallen, and when Ghislaine opened it, the chest is filled with gold coins, which made his face glow with gold color. With this much of gold, Ghislaine could hire a small mercenary group. Then he closed his chest, and is planning to invest this money to make it even more. Then there are two characters beside him who are smiling brightly. So Ghislaine questioned as to why they are here, and his sister wants to know what Ghislaine is going to do with all that money. Then the maid said that she knew where Ghislaine will be using that money, that since it is Lady Amelia's birthday soon, Ghislaine is going to present a huge gift to her. Elena is disgusted that Ghislaine had did all that just so that he could impress his fiancée, to which Ghislaine's mind is blown away, because even he himself never knew that he had a fiancée. This is the story of a boy named Zhang, who lost his grandfather. His grandfather was sliced in half by someone. And what's more interesting is, there is a hidden power in Zhang which is yet to be revealed, where this evil power is strong enough to take the entire world. Now Zhang sets his revenge on finding the one who killed his grandfather, and in his journey, there are a lot of strong martial artists. This story is about how an ordinary boy became the greatest and the first heavenly demon. If you read Nanomachine Manhwa, then this manhwa is the prequel to Nanomachine Manhwa. The full video link is in the description, and for more recaps, subscribe to my channel for intense voiceovers and editing styles with best background music. Thanks for watching.